I got a text from my friend. We're on X together, and yeah, um, it was. Hold on here because Thomas Special, and he sent me the Brennan clip. Basically, he confronted John Brennan on the fact that, and this is to the point of this version of election interference, not the one we'll talk about later this week, but the fact that 51, it was actually 56 because there were actually four others who signed it but stayed clandestine, which I understand from a good source that they've been fired as well. Just not publicly because they were never disclosed, but they signed aboard, and they also were removed from any government service. But that's the point that John Brennan, and I'll say this up front, so because just to set the stage, I'm an intelligence professional. I have dealt with Russian issues since the 1980s. I actually was one of the members of the team. I ran a team which monitored the Russians, the Soviets, during the initial elimination of the Pershing 2 boosters that we were going to use, the tactical nuclear boosters in Marshall, Texas. So I was on the ground monitoring and assessing the Soviets, the Russians. So I know a bit about Russia. And hey, Jamie, good to see you. Thanks for being here. My point is that there was never anything on the Hunter Biden hard drive that indicated Russian disinformation. Now, another reason I know this, Matt, is because I know the guy that brought it to the FBI, retired Air Force Colonel Ron Scott, who he and I worked together on a loose nukes program, which I can't say much more about, but we dealt with essentially loose nuclear weapons. No, we didn't handle them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we studied that. That's all I'm saying. We didn't. Nobody would give us loose nuclear weapons. Are you crazy? Hey, come on. Do we look like they were that trustworthy? I don't think so. Anyway, Colonel Scott, is the uncle of Mack, of JP Mack, the guy who got the Hunter Biden hard drive. So I knew from day one, because Colonel Scott told me that he was the guy that brought it to the FBI on behalf of JP Mack. So there was no doubt from the beginning that hard drive was authentic. So to me, then, the fact that you had John Brennan, who, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, he was about to be fired. For those in the audience, John Brennan was a failed analyst regarding Southeast Asia. He was so miserable that they basically were ready to fire the guy before he did one thing brilliantly well. He volunteered to be a White House briefer and ingratiated himself to the political leadership under the Clinton regime. So that's how he saved his career, by being slimy, as if there's any doubt about that. Anyway, I digress. But to you, Matt, this is a question. So do you believe for a minute that John Brennan actually believed that the Hunter Biden hard drive was Russian disinformation?
No, I do not. And
I don't think
Mac,
so.
a friend of mine, he's now he's furloughed because of the government shutdown, but Mac Warner, who works in Ed Martin's office, um,
I love that. We're friends. Ed and I are good friends.
he
So yeah,
and Mac was two-term Secretary of State for West Virginia, and he
yeah,
ran for governor, didn't make governor, but he testified in front of Congress about this very thing. And Mac is a very even-keeled guy. And Mac's a retired lieutenant colonel. He was in the Signal Corps, I think, then became a JAG. But he was furious. He says, that's election interference. Our own intelligence community interfered in our election. These people should be
yep,
investigated and prosecuted. He went
yep,
ballistic in front of Congress.
yep. And that's my point. So, and by the way, during the period we're talking about, that August to November period, as I just said, Matt, I just told you my bona fides. I worked directly on a super secret program with Colonel Ron Scott, the uncle of JP Mack, the guy who actually got the Hunter Biden hard drive, gave it to the FBI. Guess how much airtime I got during that time? Zero. Nobody wanted to hear about the facts. And I was going to people at main outlets like CBS. CBS was aware of what I'm talking about right now, about the fact that I knew the source of the Hunter Biden hard drive. I knew the FBI had it. I knew by the fact that I had access to an original copy. and I'll just disclose it now. I was helping just the news guy. I'll think of his name in a second.
Oh, John Solomon.
John Solomon. I was John Solomon's source for this because uh, behind baseball, one outlet couldn't do it. They thought it was real. They kicked me over to John, and I know John personally. He's a good guy. So I
Yes.
was actually bridging the original hard drive with a copy that he had. Someone had given John Solomon a copy, and so John was going through and validating elements of what was in that hard drive, and yet it was only John. It was no one else, and I couldn't get any main time. And even though I've handled double agents, I'm an expert in Russia issues. I'm a retired case officer with 30 years of experience. I couldn't get anybody to listen to me.